Hello everyone, welcome to Ace with Ease IAS. We have come up with a new series that is Anthroview. This is a PYQ series. Here we are going to take up some important PYQs that have come in the past UPSC papers for anthropology. And I would like to give you the anthropological insights rather than discussing in very general, because I have noticed that many sources have come into the market with respect to previous year questions, and it has been so general. Okay, so already they have made an effort. We can't deny them for doing their efforts, but at the same time, it should not be a wrong direction to the beginner. So for that reason, I just wanted to give an anthropological insights, and we are going to start this series, and we'll take up some important questions. Today, as a sample, I want to take up a question from 2024 paper 2. There has been a question that how is PESA Panchayati Raj extension to the Scheduled Areas Act, how is it empowering the local self-governance and impacting women's political participation? So generally what happens as soon as this question comes, people think that it's very easy, it's straightforward, they start writing all the points. But if you have to score good in anthropology, then in that case, it has to be substantiated by the respective works and scholars, their views in the answer. So first of all, how are you going to write the introduction? In the intro, what you are going to write? So what is PESA? It is extension of 73rd Amendment to the scheduled areas, and this extension has been done on the basis of recommendation of Buria committee, who said that you cannot homogenize the act everywhere, rather the act has to be made customized to these areas. So that is the reason, with some exceptions, the act has been extended to these areas. So Buria committee has recommended that local self-governance is important for these people, but you cannot homogenize, you cannot put the same act to all these areas, and for that reason, the PESA has been formed. And now you have given the introduction, and you will write that PESA has been into force since 1996, and from then you can notice the changes that have been happening with respect to tribes. So you can think that intro, and within the body, what you are going to write. Just you take a minute and look at what you are going to write in the body of this answer. So the question is asking two parts, right? How is PESA empowering local self-governance, and how is it impacting women's political participation? So you have to address the demand of the question. Don't deviate from the demand of the question, because if you are deviating from the demand, then you will not be getting the score. Okay, most of the people start writing about the features of PESA. That's not required. You have to talk how is it empowering this part. So basically, PESA tries to give them the authority. Okay, so PESA tries to, first you will try to write about how is it empowering the local self-governance. They have been given authority in terms of resource control. Okay, so you can see in terms of resource control, what do you mean by resource control? So it has been said that if somebody has to take land from the tribes, then there is a need for the approval of Grama Sabhas of that particular area. Unless and until then, no land can be acquired. At the same time, if any mining practice has to take place, then also you need the permission of Gram Sabha. Or if some program or policy has to be implemented, who is part of their scheduled tribe or scheduled caste is again decided by the Gram Sabha. Okay, so you know that Forest Rights Act implementation is again rooted in this. So they try to give authority over the resource control and management. Okay, so this is one thing, and at the same time, they have also ensured the cultural preservation. How? They did not let states to encroach the tribal worlds. Rather, they are allowed to continue on their existing self-governance features, existing governance structure such as tribal customary laws which are being implemented at the local level. So they have been provided with tribal advisory councils which runs on the basis of customary laws. So they did not let the states encroach onto the tribal culture. Rather, they were allowed to continue on their own customary laws. Right? So these are the ways in which they were empowered to have self-governance. But now the question is whether this self-governance is really happening. Okay, so if you notice the work of Virginius Kaka in his book, in the work Language, Religion and Identity, Tribes in India. This is the name of the book, Language, Religion and Identity. Tribes in India. In this work, he has highlighted that most of the times, though the PESA Act tries to provide autonomy to the tribals, yet in reality, the state governments and there is a bureaucratic resistance. Most of the times, they bypass the laws of the tribes and they tend to bypass this PESA Act. They don't try to give the respective power to these people, and it has also been highlighted by the Jharkhand High Court that there has been bypassing of the powers of ground level authorities which have been provided through the PESA Act. And you also know the incidents of Niyamgiri Hills where they fought for the protection of their sacred groves that are present, which they consider as the abode of their Niyam Raja, who is considered as their respective religious priest or the god. In some cases, it has been proved powerful, and even courts have highlighted that the power lies with the tribal advisory councils and the Gram Sabha. But however, the findings of Virginius Kaka and even Nandini Sundar also in the work, in some of the works, one is she has written a work based on the Bastar region, burning forest, and there is other work also, legal grounds, identity, natural resources, and the law in the Jharkhand. Okay, so the work of Nandini Sundar, there are two works. One is burning forest, that is march in the Bastar, and the other important work where she highlights is that this failure to implement the PESA Act is legal grounds, natural resources, identity and the law in Jharkhand. How the powers of the tribal advisory council or the Gram Sabha are subverted. She has highlighted in this work. Nandini Sundar, you can quote this in your answers to show that in a way through the act the empowerment of Gram Sabhas and provision of self-governance has been provided, but however, there has been certain difficulties and this has been highlighted by the important scholars. So this you will show. And next part, okay, so you have addressed one part of the answer and then coming to the second part, impact of women, impact of PESA on women's political participation. So everybody will write that in the 73rd Amendment Act, 33% of reservation has been provided and they have been performing well, they are doing great. These all things does not add up value to your answers. So you have to be little specific in your answers when you're writing. That has to be based on some authentic aspects. So one important work has been done by Chattopadhyay and Duflo. Okay, so Chattopadhyay and Duflo, they have published an article. This is not an anthropology article, but it is a developmental project article. So Chattopadhyay and Duflo, they have written an article known as Women as Policy Makers. Okay. Women as policy makers, randomized investigation, randomized investigation. Okay, so evidence of a randomized policy investigation or randomized policy experiment of India. So here in this work, they talk about how this PESA Act has empowered or enabled the women to participate politically. So basically what they say is that wherever the female-led gram panchayats are there, there the women issues are took the priority. Women issues have taken the priority, and especially water supply, sanitization, healthcare, these all have been championed by the women. Okay, and wherever you see the women-led development, okay, women-led gram sabhas or gram panchayats, there you will be noticing that the rights of the woman have been fought for. The rights of the woman has been championed. Okay, so where the woman is leading. But they also say that most of the times this is tokenistic in nature. Because if you notice what they have said in some areas such as West Bengal, where the participation of females in gram panchayats and the political participation has been noticed prominently. Okay, but in other case, what they suggest is in areas such as Rajasthan. Okay, in Rajasthan, you notice they are just proxies. Okay, they are just proxies. So first, because of PESA, what happened is that first they have got 33% reservation. Okay, so you see more women in the politics. And second thing, wherever they are present, they have fought for their rights. Okay, so these people have also tried to leverage PESA. Women have leveraged PESA for forming women associations such as Seva and Mahila Sangatans in tribal areas. Okay, so and Mahila Sangatans in tribal areas. So you can understand the question is asking how it has impacted the participation of women politically. So you have to address that part. So in order to address that, you need some stats. So this work conducted in 2004 by Chattopadhyay and Dufflo. So where it says that women as policy makers, which is evidence of a randomized policy experiment in India. So there they highlight that first there is improved public service delivery and resistance to the male dominated governance structures. However, this participation of women is varying across the states. If you look at West Bengal, its performance is good. Participation of women is more institutionalized. Female leaders are more active and they have greater influence at the local governance. But whereas in Rajasthan there is more patriarchy and the gender norms which are entrenched are not letting them, rather they are resisting the entrance of women into this political participation. Most of the times women act as proxies in these regions. Most of the times they act as proxies. Okay, so this you can highlight in one way. It is helping how their participation, and at the same time they have also championed the rights of the women. Okay, grassroots mobilization is happening, women movements are happening because of this. At the same time, the proxy representation, though it's present, still they are trying to fight for their rights and increased political representation and leadership. So PESA is impacting the political participation because they are given 33% reservation. You see more people. At the same time, in women movements and fighting for the women rights, they leveraged PESA in tribal areas and they have formed women associations there. Okay, so this you can write. However, you can highlight the challenge in many of the cases. There are proxies, okay, and the study highlighted by Nandini Sundar again says that PESA providing 33% reservation is not a reality on the ground. Most of the times, women are not aware, and this has to be addressed. So, create more awareness among the women. Okay, so despite reservations, there are socio-cultural constraints and less awareness. You have to address this awareness aspect, more awareness to the women, and socio-cultural constraints has to be addressed. That will lead to the participation of women in the politics more in number. Okay, so now you have addressed two parts, though I have tried to explain it in detail, but what you have to do is you have to write it in simple way. So and so person in the so and so work has highlighted the women's participation has increased 33% reservation, more number of people inside. They fought for the things that are equally beneficial to everyone, which makes more inclusive. They fought for the health, water supply, and sanitation. They fought for the women rights, and PESA helped in leveraging the women associations for fighting the causes of women, and women movements have been led based on the awareness that has been created and the political participation provided by the PESA. But one major challenge with respect to women participation you have to highlight here is that PESA says that it has to perform based on the customary laws. Okay, so in the customary laws, most of the times it is patriarchal in nature, and they are not allowed to get an entrance into the participation, especially in tribal areas. What happens is the women are not allowed to participate because the most of the customary laws are male dominated. So one suggestion what you can give is that, okay, we have to allow the functioning based on the customary laws, but these lacunae such as gender equality in the participation, in the political participation, has to be looked into, and slowly we can introduce it into the PESA Act as well, based on the customary laws. Okay, so that's what you can suggest, and you can conclude that the changes have to be made, okay, in the PESA, as it's a paradoxical tool. Okay, PESA in one way it empowers locally, but it also risks in reinforcing patriarchy, because you are letting the customary law to continue. That means you are reinforcing patriarchy unless you consciously couple it with the gender sensitive frameworks. So it has to be coupled with the gender sensitive frameworks, so that you can write, and its legacy will depend upon whether tribal women can navigate these interstices of traditional law to claim their political space. So it depends upon whether this woman, tribal woman, will navigate whatever the interstices that are there. Okay, so in that way you can write your own conclusion, and with that you'll be able to address the answer holistically. Now, if you look at the answer without this substantiation, so now you might be thinking that how will we able to remember this, or where do we get this substantiation? See, when you are doing your PESA Act, then itself you should study how the PESA is impacting, okay, how it is impacting the tribals and the tribal women. Okay, then and there itself you have to study, and this we have discussed in our static classes as well. Okay, so in the 555 advanced, I extensively discussed it. So this part you have to include. Okay, so in the similar manner, we'll take up many more questions. You can mention the questions which you want to discuss, and we'll take up them. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you.